Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Ask Your Injury Lawyers, where we bring on some of the top attorneys to address some of your top questions. Little housekeeping. I'm just going to make sure that we're live. We are good. First order of business. If you guys can let us know that you can hear us and that you can see us well, and just let us know in the comments below. Just say, yes, I can hear you, and yes, I can see you. That would be great. And then also, this is a forum where you guys can submit your questions. You want to ask attorneys anything, you would love an opportunity to be able to sit down with an attorney. This is said opportunity. So we want you guys to be able to start commenting all your questions below, and the attorneys that we're going to be featuring will be able to answer them for you, which is great. And today we've got two wonderful attorneys. And before we bring them to the stage, again, these attorneys are from the law firm of Buttafuoco Associates. And let's see if I could do this well here. And again, if you are tuning in from YouTube or Facebook or wherever it is that you're watching or hearing the live show, thank you so much for joining us. We love having you guys be part of this show. But without further ado, let's actually get right into it, and let's welcome to the stage Mark Freeley. Let's see here. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Robbie. How you been, man?
I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm coronavirus happy, actually. I'm good. So my family, we are loving actually the quarantine because we're able to spend more time with the kids and the family, and we've taken this as an opportunity to sort of address some of those projects in the house that we've neglected over the years. Right? Like
the projects are all throughout my neighborhood. I see people cleaning out garages and attics, and I feel bad for the people that have to pick this up and bring it away because it's a lot of stuff out there in the streets. Oh my gosh.
Actually, that's a really good point. I feel bad for the garbage people. There's a lot of incredible and rightfully so praise for all of the first responders, but let's take a little moment to also thank all of the sort of essential workers right now are still out there, like the garbage. These guys that these sanitation workers that have to handle that sort of level of work. I mean, now that you're saying it makes me realize, man, that's actually a really dangerous position to be in. And let me tell you something, they're definitely processing more garbage today than ever before.
Yeah, and don't everybody put it out on the same day. Spread it out so they don't have to kill themselves.
That's true. That's really good advice. So welcome back to the show. I'll say, I know you actually helped us kick off the show a few weeks ago, and it was an incredible program. So definitely welcome back. But if you could just remind everyone who you are, what firm you represent, how long you've been an attorney, all that fun housekeeping stuff.
All right, I'll break it down quick. People don't want to hear that again. But 30 years working with Dan Buttafuoco, straight out of Hofstra Law, and I'm a senior partner there, and I'm a mentor to the 7 attorneys that we have, and I run the day-to-day operations court-wise, making sure that the attorneys have everything they need and to run the cases smoothly and quickly, and to make sure that we get the right results for our clients.
Mark, I know you hail from a similar part of Long Island that I'm from, but right now I want to ask everyone, let us know where you're actually watching the show from. What town are you guys tuning in from? Hopefully most people are socially distancing themselves at home, but if you're sort of just in the car because you feel like you need to be in the car, by the way, I actually have a few friends that literally just go in the car to change things up a little bit. But let us know, where are you guys tuning in from around the world? What town are you guys tuning in from? I'm actually tuning in from Smithtown. Mark, where are you tuning in from?
Stony Brook Village.
Stony Brook Village.
Very relaxing.
What's that?
Very relaxing place to live.
Oh my gosh, it's actually, I actually think it's one of the most beautiful places in the entire world. It's a really sort of like a little piece of relaxing paradise tucked away in the North Shore of Long Island.
I feel very blessed to live here, Rob, but believe me.
Yeah, it is a really beautiful area. It's actually also one of those areas though of Long Island that, globally people are not aware of. People think of the North Shore, but they think of Nassau County North Shore.
Yeah.
They don't realize the North Shore of Suffolk County is incredible. It's fairly vast and still lush, and it's green and beautiful beaches. It's a beautiful place. So
agreed. We got to keep it secret.
Well, I guess not anymore. Now that we're talking live on the show that's coming out the entire world. But I also want to bring to the stage right now another attorney to just dive a little bit into a very specific question, and it's a simple one. But do I have a case? But before we get into it, let's bring into Shawn Alfano. Shawn, how you doing there, bud?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Rob?
I am doing well. Mark and I were just talking about how beautiful Long Island is.
Fantastic. And you don't have a case, Rob?
Do I have a case?
Man.
No, I don't have a case. So, Shawn, where are you tuning in from?
Oh, I'm in Coram.
All the way out in Coram. Okay, so we're all Suffolk County people, but today we're actually talking about a very simple topic. Do I have a case? A lot of people, though, especially the people watching the show, a lot of clients that come our way, it always starts out with that very simple question: do I have a case? So I'm going to throw that out at you, and we'll just sort of let the conversation grow from there. But how do you respond to a client when they call in and they say, do I have a case?
Well, I'm going to let Mark talk about a few details, but just when you just started with that question, I just got a flashback to, it was a couple years ago, and I was on my way home from work. It was probably around 7:30 at night. I know it was dark out, so it must have been in the winter. And my cell phone rang, and I have the Bluetooth, so I pick it up, and it is a former client of mine, a great guy. I love this guy. I've represented various friends of his, people in his family, himself. I've known him for years. And he's like, oh my God, do I have a case? And I'm like, oh, what's going on? He's all excited. He's like, I just got hit. And I said, what do you mean you just got hit? He's like, somebody's hit me in the rear. I was on the HOV, on the LIE, and I just got hit in the rear. And I don't know, what should I do? Do I have a case? And I said, well, okay, well, hold on. And then as I'm coming up ahead, I see that there's some police lights. A cop goes flying by me real fast. I see some traffic slowing up ahead. And I said, where are you? He's like, I'm on the LIE. I'm over by like exit 63 in the HOV. And of course, I'm coming up on the scene. So I'm like, what do I do? Do I stop? I'm like, oh, that's probably not a good idea to have your lawyer standing there. Stop. So I drive by, and I don't say that I'm driving by. Then he gets upset because you say, stop. What are you doing? Yeah. So I drive by, and I say, well, how do you feel? Are you okay? He's like, I don't know. He's like, my neck hurts. I said, well, if your neck hurts, go to the doctor. You get checked out. I don't know. I said, are the police there? He's like, well, they're pulling up now. I said, all right, well, hang up with me. The police is there. Tell them what happened. Tell them how you're feeling. But so it's nice that, you can have access to a lawyer right away. But the first thing you need to do before you say, do I have a case, is to kind of take care of what's going on at the scene. The police hasn't arrived yet. And so this is, I can't make this stuff up. It really happens. But I'm sorry to jump on that. And Mark, I know you had something that you wanted to say about, do I have a case?
Yeah. And I've had very similar phone calls over the last 30 years. Believe me. Before the police are there, people are calling me, and it's like, I appreciate your confidence in calling me, but it's a little bit too soon for me to be able to tell you if you have a case. But let's talk about car accident cases, and let's talk about really what's the first thing we should do if we do get into that car accident case. I'm always, telling my kids, what should you do? Because I know they have no clue, and they'll probably end up doing the wrong thing. So if you get into a car accident case, the first thing you do, you have to have the police come to the scene to document the fact that the accident happened exactly the way that it happened, not how the other person happened. And don't give the other person the benefit of the doubt. Don't fall for, don't worry, I don't want to go through insurance. I don't want my rates to go up. I know a body shop guy. Bring your car there and I'll take care of it. Forget about it. Don't even think about it. Do the right thing. Have the police come to the scene, because people tend to, and very frequently do, change their stories once they leave the scene and they talk to their insurance company or their lawyer or their family or friends. So Police come, get them there, talk to the police, report it exactly how it happened, the way you know it happened. If there's any witnesses, get them while they're hot. Get those witnesses. How many cases I've had trouble with where the injuries were horrific and, you know, the people had claimed, yes, it's my fault. They admitted at the scene and then they changed their story. You got to have a witness. If they're around, get them, get their name, get their email, get their telephone number. If they don't, if you can't get there, get a picture of the plate. Do not rely on the police officers to get it. I've had so many problems on cases over the years where the officers didn't take the information for the witness, and my client just assumed that they would. So that's number one. Number two, photos. Take photos of your car damage, photos of the other car damage, photos of the scene, the positions of the cars, anything like that. Take photos. Those are invaluable. Don't wait till the car gets towed. The on-scene photos are very crucial. Right? If you've got any pain, tell the responding officer, request an ambulance if the pain is severe, and go to the hospital and document it. Because documentation is the key to the eventual question is, do I have a case? Right? So you've got
well, Mark, real quick, you're saying that documentation is key. What about someone who's really seriously injured? They're not able to, you know, take pictures. Does that mean like they're not going to have a case now?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, you know, sometimes the other party takes pictures. Sometimes when if the vehicles get towed to a tow yard, then the insurance companies, when they send out their adjusters to appraise the damage and the value of the vehicle, they'll take photos. It's just more convenient. And if you're taking on the scene photos, if there's a dispute about how and why the accident happened, those photos, as Sean can tell you, as being one of our top trial guys, those can prove invaluable at trial to dispute something that the other side says is true when it's not. Gotcha.
Now, when it comes to, you know, car accidents, I know there's a lot of, you know, there's always it wasn't my fault, right? I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault, right? But in New York, there's this thing called no fault. Sean, what is no fault?
Well, no fault is exactly what it says. It's an insurance basically set up where many years ago there was an attempt to try to reduce the amount of lawsuits that come out of car accidents. And how this was set up was to say, look, we're fighting about medical bills, we're fighting about people losing time from work because of an accident, and we have to go to court and we have to have a trial to see who is at fault before any of these medical bills get paid or these people get paid for their lost time from work. So you know how we can eliminate many, many lawsuits is to say, we don't care whose fault it is. I don't care. No fault. Fault's not involved in this. Whatever car you're in, that insurance is going to pay for your medical treatment because of that accident. That insurance is going to pay for your lost wages because of that accident. And then we're going to get rid of a lot of lawsuits. So we're going to be able to free up the courts, and it will be a lot less stress on the system. So that was the idea behind the no fault law. Like, the insurance companies did not like this. They said, what do you mean? It's not my person's fault. They're a perfect driver. They've never had an accident before. Some idiot crashes into them. And now why should I pay? Why should I pay for this? And so when this law was developed, they said, you know what, insurance companies, you're right. We're going to give you something, and we're going to make it that unless a person has what's called a serious injury under the definition of no fault, they can't sue. They can't possibly sue at all. That case will get thrown out of court if they do not have a serious injury. So it's kind of a complicated legal system. But when you hear about no fault, at first you're looking at who's going to pay the medical bills, and then the other aspect of it is, can you bring a case for something more than medical bills? Because a lot of times the worst harms in a case is the pain and suffering and the disabilities and the way someone's life has been affected, sometimes for a short period of time, sometimes for their entire life. And so that, even though that is the most significant part of the case, it's not addressed by the no fault law. So maybe Mark wants to speak to that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when we're talking about do I have a case, there's two parts of every case. When we're talking about a car accident case, there's liability, which is fault. You have to prove fault. It has to be someone else's fault in order to be a possible case. In New York State, we have pure comparative fault. So everyone that drives a car is responsible for their own percentage of fault. If I'm stopped at a light and I get hit in the rear, there's no fault on me. If someone's making a left turn and hit my car, there may be a question of, was I a percentage of fault? Was I going too fast? Did I not take appropriate evasive action? Did I not see what there was to be seen? I wasn't paying attention. I might have been distracted. So there might be a percentage of fault. But you always have to have fault as the first piece of a case. Assuming there's fault on the other party, then we look to the damages. Damages are, what are your injuries, your pain and suffering, things like that. No fault takes care of your medical bills and your loss of wages. And only if you have a serious injury can you then bring a lawsuit seeking compensation above and beyond what no fault pays. And that's when people talk about cases and settlements, we're talking about that pain and suffering aspect of it. So the serious injury law in New York, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but basically it starts off with the most serious, if there's death or dismemberment or disfigurement or a fracture or a scar, if someone needs a surgery, if you're out of work for 90 days, all black and white cases. Right? But the majority of the cases with the neck, the back, your knee, your shoulder, those are the gray area cases. They may not be a case. They may be a huge case. But it's really like putting together a serious injury puzzle. And we take the pieces of the puzzle and we have to put them together to see if there's enough to meet that burden of proof of a serious injury. And if there is, and we do have liability, we have fault on the other driver, and we can meet that serious injury threshold, then we'll bring a lawsuit. And guess what? When we bring a lawsuit, what do you have, Rob? A case.
Awesome. Again, we are here with Mark Freeley and Shawn Alfano. These are seasoned attorneys with the law firm of Buttafuoco Associates. And we started off by talking simply, do I have a case? And Mark Freeley just helped me realize I have a case. And I appreciate that. Now, you guys are giving us a ton of incredible information. I do want to direct everyone, though, that after this show, Buttafuoco Associates has an incredible website with a lot of really helpful resources. Let's see if we can get it up here. So everyone's welcome to go to Buttafuoco Associates website. It's 1-800-NOW-HURT.com. And to get access to some of these checklists that we were talking about, both Shawn and Mark were outlining some really helpful checklists of, what to do at a car accident scene. If you simply just navigate to resources, you click checklists, and we've got a bunch of really helpful checklists here that everyone can refer back to. So if anyone wants some light reading as well, you're welcome to pick up some light reading. But it's also really helpful information for those that might be a victim of a car accident or know someone who has been in a car accident here. All right, let's get back to this screen here. Okay. Now, Shawn,
yes.
Mark was just talking about the different parts of a case.
Mm-hmm.
That you're the lead trial attorney at Buttafuoco Associates, what's the first thing that you have to prove in a case?
Well, you have to prove that it was somebody's fault, that somebody was negligent, that somebody was being careless, and if they would have been acting as a reasonably safe person would do, the accident wouldn't have happened.
Mark, you also started to talk about, and you started to list out some types of injuries. Do you need a certain type of injury in order for it to be considered a case? Like if I got into a car accident and I got a scratch on my arm, where the experience was terrible, would that be enough to justify bringing a case?
In all likelihood, not. I mean, a scratch, unless it results in a serious scar, is not going to be. And I had this conversation with people a lot, and people don't. It's hard to suck it up sometimes because it's not a perfect justice system, right? So if I'm stopped at a light and I get hit in the rear by someone who is speeding, on drugs or intoxicated, if they were on the cell phone, and they total my car, but I've got a safe car. All the airbags go off. I don't break anything. I don't need a surgery. I have minor neck or back pain. It goes away after a while. And I tell the client, listen, you really don't have the case. They're like, well, wait a minute. He was drunk. He got arrested. I'm like, well, listen, you can only be 100% at fault. You can't, even if you're 1,000% at fault, it doesn't change the fact that under New York state law, you have to prove that one or more of your injuries is serious in order to be able to recover anything more than your no-fault benefits that come directly from your car insurance company. And listen, for the average person that doesn't deal with this on a day-by-day basis, you have that moment like, are you kidding me? This guy was drunk. He was speeding. He was on a cell phone. He almost killed me. And what? I get nothing from him. He walks away. Meanwhile, I had to spend the next 6 months going to physical therapy and altering my life. And the answer many, many times is yes. And that's a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people. Well, listen, if it's a neck and back case and you don't have an MRI and you don't have a fracture and you're not disabled from work for 90 days, there's really not much that I can do for you. And that's the honest truth. And it's very, very frustrating to hear that your car is totaled. You have to now go out and buy a new car, or lease a new car when you didn't have a payment. Maybe now you have to take on a new payment. All these bad things happen to you. You see nothing happen to the other person. And then the lawyer you call for advice tells you, listen, you can't sue them. Or if you sue them, the case will get dismissed. But I'd rather tell people and be honest and transparent up front and don't give people false hope about whether or not they have a case. Some lawyers will just say, yes, 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 yes. Case. And they'll have them sign up, a retainer. And the case will be on the shelf. And a year later, they'll get a letter from the lawyer. Sorry, you don't have a case. And they're like, what? I don't have a case? I thought I had a case this whole last year. And you should have told me that in the beginning, and I would have been okay with that. But don't make me wait a year for the truth. And we don't do that. We're going to give you a real honest evaluation of whether or not you do have a case.
Yeah. You just speak a little bit more about that scenario, though, where someone was in an accident. It was not their fault, but they simply did not get injured, right? I think I've heard this, and I want you guys to maybe share some experiences that you guys have had as well. But, people just feel like the situation is unfair. They want justice because they want the person to pay in some way for this accident that they caused, more than maybe the legal system allows for justice. Have you experienced this before? And if you have, can you share maybe one or two experiences with regards to that? Because I think this is a really common situation for a lot of people where they've been in an accident, they don't have an injury though, and they think it's unfair that they can't sue the other person.
Yeah, I mean, look, it happens all the time. So the idea of the types of cases that we're talking about here are tort cases or negligence cases. And those cases are specifically designed to compensate someone for the physical harms that they have suffered because someone else wasn't paying attention, or someone else was negligent. And that's the law. Now, if a drunk driver hits you, and thank God you are not hurt in that accident, there are other laws that are going to punish that person, right? There is the criminal code, right? That person will be arrested and they will have a penalty to pay. Now, if somebody wasn't drunk, they would just texting on their phone, not paying attention, and they crash into you. And thankfully, you're not hurt at all in that accident. Well, what's going to happen? Well, their insurance is going to go up, right? So they're going to suffer some penalties. But the negligence law, as it applies to no-fault cases in New York, is not going to allow you to punish that person, right? the law is not set up to punish the other person, the wrongdoer, in this kind of situation. The law is set up to try to make you whole physically. So if there's property damage to your car, that's one thing. But we're talking about damage to your body. And if you don't have it, you're not going to have a case under the New York no-fault law.
Again, we're here with Mark Freeley, managing partner of Buttafuoco Associates, and Shawn Alfano, the lead trial attorney for Buttafuoco Associates. And we're sort of outlining and dissecting this very simple question: do I have a case? Now, someone just made a good point, and they say, I'll bring it in here, and it says New York is so strict. In Washington, almost each collision is a case in soft tissue injuries. I can resolve them in about 6 months. So, is it true? Is he saying that like the laws do differ from state to state?
Yeah, the laws are different in every state, and when we're talking about resolving them, there's a difference between a case and maybe a claim. So some people will come to us and maybe they're injured, but maybe not quite enough to meet the serious injury threshold, right? So it might be a gray area type of injury. So we'll try to build the case the best that we can. We'll get all the medical records and diagnostic studies and whatever evidence we need, and we'll send it over to the insurance company. And if we think it's a claim where if we did bring a formal lawsuit, the other side would be successful in having it dismissed by their lawyers, many times the best thing for us to do for our clients is to try to settle the claim, resolve the claim, especially when we're talking about a soft tissue case, which means there's no fracture, there's no surgery. It's, your neck, your back, your knee, your shoulders, strains, sprains, things like that. And I'm not trying to downplay that because they can be very painful and life-altering. But if they don't meet that serious injury threshold, the case gets dismissed. I'm better off trying to get my client something rather than nothing. And so that's when we're talking about resolving a case. You're resolving a claim, and it's not really yet a case.
Gotcha. Now, in this sort of staying on topic, car accidents, determining who's at fault, it's always like he said, she said type of thing. I know you guys have probably dealt with that before, but in the age now of technology where, everyone seems to have like a camera on them and everyone has like maybe even a camera on their vehicles, are these like these dash cameras? We have a question that came in here. I'll put it on the screen here. But are these dash cameras admissible evidence?
Yes, they are admissible if they can be properly authenticated. And they're very useful. And in the cases that I've been involved in with dash cams, they certainly are the primary evidence of a case. Not only dash cams, but we find a lot of storefront cameras and cameras on people's households. When an accident happens on a residential block where people have cameras trained on the front of their house, a lot of times we'll pick up the street and our investigators will canvass a neighborhood, whether it's commercial or residential, look for cameras, talk to the owners, and get the video from the cameras, so we can put together the case through the through the video evidence. It's crucial.
Rob, brief story on the camera. Very interesting case I handled. Motorcyclist ends up dying in an accident. His wife had predeceased him. He had a young girl survive him, a young daughter. So my client is the estate, the grandmother. She had to go live with her grandmother. I represented the grandmother on behalf of the young daughter whose father died in the motor vehicle accident. He was the motorcycle operator. And the other side's defense, very strong defense, was that our guy was going way too fast. He was speeding like a demon, and he caused the accident. The car was making a left turn. But if they can show that the motorcycle was going insanely fast, maybe no case at all, maybe dismissed. They may find that he's 100% at fault for his accident and his poor daughter gets nothing. So I canvassed the whole area. Go to the 7-Eleven. They've got a camera facing the street. But what does it show? It captures my guy on his motorcycle passing the 7-Eleven. Well, you're like, well, Mark, what does that show? Well, you have to be creative, especially when a serious thing like this happens. I mean, I want to do everything I possibly can to help this poor little girl who's going to need this money. She's got no parents. I mean, I can't just take a small settlement on this case. I just can't. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to make this right. I got to bring justice to this. So I get the CD video from the 7-Eleven. I then get one of the best accident reconstruction experts, retired police officer that specialized in that. He takes that video and he breaks it down. And by doing a timeline of when the motorcycle passed certain objects in the video, he was able to ascertain the almost exact speed of the motorcycle at the time it passed the 7-Eleven. And the 7-Eleven was very close to where the accidents occurred. And it proved that he was only going slightly over the speed limit. And as soon as I served that expert report, they paid the entire policy to me on behalf of that little girl. And I felt awesome. And it was just a great win. It was a great moral win. It was a feel good. And listen, just something to help that poor little girl in her future. And that was one of the cases I'll never forget about videos.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I can imagine from your side, anyone being in a position to be able to help someone else is incredibly rewarding. But in the story that you just told, that was real lawyering right there. It was like a Hollywood movie, the way that you were found the surveillance camera, you dissected it, you're able to calculate the exact time. I mean, the whole process must be a lot of fun for you guys.
And let me tell you what we did is that was an expert I had come across on another case that I knew this particular insurance company loved and liked to use. So I ran out and got him before they could. So they didn't have him.
Oh my gosh, wow. You locked them up.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's incredible. That really is incredible. Again, I just want to remind everyone, you guys are tuning into the show, Ask Your Injury Lawyers. We've got Mark Freeley and Shawn Alfano with us today, and we're going through, do I have a case? And breaking down, using the example of a car accident. I also want to just show everyone one more time, is that Buttafuoco Associates has a website filled with incredible resources. And some of the resources that they have available for everyone, things like, how to check that you have the right type of insurance, which Mark, maybe a little bit later on in the show, you can go ahead and explain this to everyone, because I know you're one of the foremost authorities on insurance. But also, what to do if you're in a car accident. I'll zoom in for everyone here. Let's see if I can get fancy on you. There we go. Here we go. Here's just some of the resources that we have available on the Buttafuoco and Associates website, 1-800-NOW-HURT. What to do if you're hurt on the job, even medical logs that you can go ahead and you can download and you can use. But you can go ahead and I'll put the URL for everyone. You can go to 1-800-NOW-HURT.com and you can check out all of these available resources. But right now, again, we are talking with Shawn, and we are also talking with Mark. Now, Shawn, as the senior trial attorney at Buttafuoco Associates, this would be a great question for you. Can you bring a lawsuit without fault or a serious injury? Well,
you could try. Can you win? Look, if there's no fault against the party that you're bringing the case against, you're going to lose. Period. Now, the serious injury, as Mark was saying, there are black and white serious injury definitions, and then there is the gray. So on that question, assuming that you have a case where the other party is at fault, but your injury is gray, it's not a black and white injury. I mean, you can possibly win that case. It depends on a lot of factors. But assuming that you are able to show, even though it's gray, in the end, we can make it black and white through a lot of different techniques that we have as far as presenting evidence and documenting injuries and persuading a judge and a jury that this indeed is a case that should move from that gray area to a black and white area. It's a lot of work, but that can be done.
I'm actually going to go ahead and show your email address for everyone real quick. Again, like we've always mentioned in every previous show, the attorneys at Buttafuoco Associates are incredibly available. They make themselves available and accessible to all their clients, and really even to non-clients. I know all of you guys personally as well. I know they care very much about what they do, and they care very much about people. So this is Shawn's personal email address for the entire world to see. Write it down before I go ahead and take it off the screen, or you can just go ahead and watch it on a replay and get it again. Now, guys, getting back to car accidents. Now, if you don't mind sort of sharing an exact example of a car accident where it meets everything you were talking about. It's clear liability. It's very, very serious injuries. But one of the things, I don't know if you guys have been able to touch on it a little bit, is the coverage. Sometimes you can have a very, very serious accident, a very, very serious injury requiring lots of surgeries, but there's this word coverage, and there's limitations on coverage. And even though all the first two things are catastrophic in nature, there's limitations on what they can recover. So can you explain a little bit, how maybe not all cases are, a $1 million case, even if you have the first two?
Yeah, it's a great point, Rob. And I guess many people think, well, whatever my case is worth, well, that's what I'm going to get. And I'm like, well, that's not true. I mean, unfortunately, it's not true. Too many sad stories where I've seen clients walk away with not nearly enough what they went through to compensate them. But it's not a perfect system. In New York State, can you believe that in the year 2020, a person still only needs $25,000 worth of liability insurance to put a car on the road? That means that if that person hits you and they break your legs, that's all you can get from their insurance company. And people say, well, can't I go after them personally? Well, yes, you can go after them personally. But a person that's got a $25,000 policy almost never has anything to protect, right? So if you own a home, if you have assets, you're going to have lots of insurance to protect those assets. The people that don't have assets are like, well, what do I need more insurance for? I'll have the 25. I'll pay a cheaper premium. Premiums cost so much on Long Island as it is. Take the cheapest premium. And I'll tell you that people that don't have anything to protect will have that 25 policy. And more importantly, people that are bad drivers that their rates are really high will have a 25 policy. People that get into the assigned risk will have a 25 policy. And so you're more likely to get hit by a person with a 25 policy than you are probably any other type of policy. And we see that all the time. And so unless you can prove, and we've done this before, that the person was using the vehicle in the course or scope of their employment at the time that they hit you, then we have a possibility of bringing in an employer's policy. And what we're seeing now these days is with, Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, all the meal delivery services and the rideshare services. If they're in the process of making a delivery or having a ride with them, you're opening the door to big policies through the companies. And so if we can do that. But, if you don't have that, if you get hit by someone with a small policy, then you've got to go to your own insurance and look for underinsured motorist coverage. And if you purchase that, it steps into the shoes of the small policy person that caused the accident, and you can get the small policy and then go to your own company's policy and get additional if you paid for it.
So basically, the scenario that you just outlined of this, most people have a minimal policy of $25,000. That's not even worst case scenario for cases. There could be cases where someone gets seriously hurt. It's a very serious accident, but there's no coverage, right? And that's what you're talking
Sean.
about now.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, talk to him about like what a hit and run situation or something.
Yeah, absolutely. This happens in a few scenarios. So a hit and run is exactly what it sounds like. You get in an accident, either as you're a pedestrian, you're walking, and the car hits you, and that car takes off. You know, you're injured, you can't do anything. You're just, you're on the ground, and that car is gone. That's a hit and run. It could be in your car. Somebody could crash into your car, and you pull over and look to exchange information, and that car just takes off. So that's a hit and run case. And in that type of situation, you're going to have, as long as your car is properly insured and registered, I'm sure it would be, you're going to have what's called a supplemental uninsured motorist coverage. So what you need to do in that type of situation is get a police report immediately. The law says in New York 24 hours, but you want to call the police immediately and say, I've been involved in a hit and run accident, and have them come out and write a report. Otherwise, your insurance is not going to cover it. So that's very important. Now, there are also cases that where you can protect yourself, even if the person stopped, but they have one of these minimum policies, which in New York, as Mark said, is $25,000. That is the minimum amount of coverage, but it is the most popular policy that's sold in the state because it is the cheapest. And a lot of people just want to get a car on the road, and they want to do it for as cheap as possible. And so that's what they do. They buy the $25,000 policy. So if you want to protect yourself from somebody that might be negligent or reckless with that minimal policy and harm you, you will, when you purchase your policy, you can buy up coverage for the event that somebody with this minimal policy will harm you, right? And there's various coverages that you can buy. The wisest thing to do is to match your liability coverage. So if you have $1 million policy because you have a house and you have things to protect, and you're like, I have great insurance, I have $1 million policy. Well, you have to make sure that your SUM, your supplemental underinsured motorist coverage, matches your liability, because it doesn't always do that. It's not automatic. So you have to make sure to ask for that match, and then you would be protected up to that $1 million. So if you cause an accident and harm somebody, you're protected by your liability policy. But if somebody harms you and they take off, or they just don't have the coverage, you're also protected under your own policy. That's very important.
It's a great point, because existing policies don't have to match. So if you have an existing policy and you have, let's say, $250,000 of liability, which protects you for your mistakes, and if you look at your uninsured motorist, it may only be $2,550. So you're protecting you and your family for $250, and you're protecting other people for 10 times more than that. So, you want to protect you and your family for as much as you're protecting other people. So if you have liability limits of $250, $500, get $250, $500 on your uninsured motorist. And it's very cheap. I see, it's very cheap coverage. You'd be surprised at how cheap it is.
Yeah.
And but any new policy issued in the state of New York, there's an automatic match now. It's a new law, but there was confusion over whether it applied to existing policies upon renewal. Apparently it doesn't. So it's only on a new policy. So if you've got an old policy and it's up for renewal, just always check it. And when I tell people, when I meet with a client, I always ask to see their policy declarations page. I always do a free review. And so if anybody viewing this today, I am more than happy to do a free insurance policy review of your car policy. You want to email it in, or however you want to get it over to us. We'll review it, make recommendations as to your no-fault coverage and your uninsured motorist coverage for free. We'd be happy to do that.
Now, Mark, when you say just check out your insurance policy and see how much coverage you have, most people look at their coverage sheet, and it's like this massive thesis. It's like Homer's Iliad. I don't know if you've ever seen, obviously you guys have seen it. People don't enjoy looking through this, and even if they did, they wouldn't know where to start. Now, I know you said you were nice enough to agree to review everyone's policy. But right off the bat, could you just give everyone tips, like what should they be looking for? What page should they be taking out?
You just need to look at the declarations page. It's usually 1 or 2 pages. It tells you what your coverage amounts are. So the first coverage is usually liability. You know, it might be 25, 50. We hope not. It could be 50, 100, 100, 300, 250, 500. The split policy limits are just that. It's 250 per person, maybe 500 per accident. No matter how many people were injured, they all have to split that 500. One person can't get more than the 250. That's the difference on a split policy. And most policies in New York are split policies.
Okay.
So you want to look at the liability.
So when you say 25, 50, you're talking about this area here.
Liability. Right. Well, that's on the SUM coverage. So, you know, on the declarations page, the first coverage listed is usually your liability.
Okay.
And then it will go into your no fault, and then towards the bottom, you typically have your uninsured, underinsured. So on the liability part, we recommend having minimum of 250, 500 on liability. So if you make a mistake and you get sued, you have at least that. If you're married, there's a thing called spousal liability insurance. It's a rider. It's super cheap. You got to have it. You got to add it, because if you're a passenger, when your spouse is driving, the spouse gets, I've had this, spouse gets distracted, hits the car in front of him in the rear. The airbag goes off. The spouse goes, oh no, and it snaps the wrist. I've had this a bunch of times, and the spouse needs a surgery. Well, whose fault is the accident? The spouse that hit someone in the rear. So you can't sue the car that the spouse hit in the rear. They're not at fault. Only the spouse is. If you don't have that spousal liability coverage, yes, you get your no fault benefits, but no, you get nothing more. If you had the spousal liability coverage, that now you can actually sue your spouse. And listen, some people would like to do that these days.
and this spousal insurance, this doesn't come by default. It's not like a default line item that you automatically get when you get car insurance.
The only insurance company I know that used to have it as part of the policy, and you'd have to dig through the policy to find it, was Allstate. Every other policy that I've looked at, you have to affirmatively ask for it, and then you'll have to get it added. And like I said, it's dollars. It's dollars. You got to have it if you're married.
Yeah, you're actually making a good point. A lot of people feel that any type of insurance is expensive, but what you're talking about could really benefit someone if they are in, let's say, a car accident. We're talking about an investment of a couple bucks.
Yeah, I mean, making the small increases is not a lot of money. And if you want to offset the increase, look to your collision coverage. And if you have like a $500 deductible, if you're a good driver and you're not likely to have an accident, raise it to $1,000. I think it pays for itself in like 2.5 years or something like that. And then it'll offset the other coverages that you want to increase. But you want to make sure you've got good no-fault coverage as well. And like Shawn was saying, you have to make sure that your uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage matches and mirrors your liability coverage, so you're protecting you and your family for the same amount you're protecting strangers.
Yeah. Now this is actually, in my opinion, we're going through this coronavirus pandemic. I feel like this is a great time that everyone should really be having a conversation with their insurance company. They should all call them up right now. Now, with the fact that because we are all quarantined, there's a lot less people on the road, are the insurance companies doing anything because of this? Are they giving discounts? Are they increasing rates? What's going on from that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are giving some rebates on premiums for the policies that are in effect for this year, because the claims are way down. So, yeah, I mean, you would check with your policy. They're probably going to contact you. I know some of the carriers are running advertisements that they're doing it. I know my insurance carrier had sent me a letter basically saying what my rebate was going to be.
All right, well, to close out the hour, guys, I'm going to give you guys the floor, each of you guys individually, to sort of like share anything you would like. It could be as it relates to what we talked about with, do I have a case, motor vehicle accidents, but you guys have the floor. You guys are used to this. You guys are attorneys and in the courtroom. So, counselor, the floor is yours. Who would like to go first? Want to flip for it?
Oh, it's my buddy Sean can go first.
Okay, Sean.
All right. So, look, what we've been talking about is our legal principles, are things that are written in Section 5102 of the no-fault law of the state of New York. And, we're really limiting our conversation today to the laws in the state of New York, where different states, have different scenarios. So you would have to check with the law in your particular state. If you're watching from New Jersey, Connecticut, Washington State, states all across the union have different laws. Some laws have no fault situations. Some states are not. So you have to check it out. But what this goes to show is that you may think you have a case and you don't. You need to speak with a lawyer. You may think you don't have a case, but you do. So you really do need to speak to a lawyer. Don't make that decision for yourself. There are a lot of nuances in it. You could hear what we're saying today and then apply it to a situation. But, just a small detail could make the difference between whether you have a very good case or you have no case at all. So always talk to a professional before you make that determination. That's the best advice that any lawyer can give you.
Sean is 100,000% right. I mean, no matter what the situation is, every case is different, and small details and facts can make a difference. Always consult a lawyer, right? You can't rely on the insurance company to give you advice, especially when they're adversarial to you, right? So you want to make sure you're getting good advice. Not necessarily while you're at the scene waiting for the police to arrive, but after you've gone home and it's been a day or so and you're feeling not right, give an attorney a phone call, give us a call, reach out to us. We are more than happy to guide you through, give you the benefit of our 30 plus years of experience and let you know, okay, could this be a case, or it's really never going to be a case? But at least you'll know, and by calling us, you're going to get the real facts. We're not going to sugarcoat it. I never sugarcoat things to clients. I would rather tell you the honest truth up front, give you a fair and honest evaluation. A lot of times it's too soon to know. So we stay in contact. I have plenty of people that do that. They have my cell phone number. They'll have my email. And, if they get an MRI, they'll email it to me. Okay, Mark, I'm still treating. I got this MRI. What do you think now? And that's what we do. And we'll continue to keep in contact. But don't rely on the insurance company. Don't rely on friends or family to tell you whether you have a case or not. Just give us a call. Email us. And don't be afraid to call us about your policy, too. I can't stress how important the policy is that you have on your car. That's your coverage. That's what is going to cover you if the at-fault person doesn't have what they should have. And you don't want to wait till after an accident. Do it now. And don't rely on your insurance carrier to say, oh, don't worry, you've got full coverage. What does that mean? What does full coverage mean? It could mean 1,000 different things. So don't rely on that. And in closing, I would just say, someone at the firm had mentioned the fact that maybe in an upcoming episode, people might want to be introduced to my dog, Storm, who is sort of a hero around these parts. And so maybe next time you guys can ask Storm some questions.
Would we have to pay a premium in order to be able to bring him on board? I don't know what his fee is.
You have to talk to his agent.
Yeah, I'm going to consult his agent.
For the two people in the entire world that doesn't know who Storm is, Mark, really, really quickly, why don't you just tell everyone who Storm is, and that'll be a really good setup. I agree. If it's okay with you, I would love to actually bring Storm on the show. I think it'd be wonderful.
And maybe we can get him to smile, because he does smile, which scares some people, because he's got really big teeth. And when he smiles, people think he's going to come after them or something. But Storm is my English Golden Retriever that about 2 years ago, we were walking on the beach in Port Jefferson Harbor, and he spotted something in the water, ran out on his own into the water, swam 100 feet off of the beach, and next to a bobbing brown head that I had no idea what it was. I was with my other dog at the time on a leash, and I watched him get to it. I got closer, and I see the head go under. It comes up, and it looks like it's an animal. He looks at me. He reaches his neck out. He opens his mouth wide as he can, and he grabs what turns out to be a 3-month-old baby deer by its neck gently, turns around like a lifeguard, brings the deer back to shore, lays it gently on the shoreline. I thought it was dead. It pops back up. He follows it, and then it collapses, and I thought it was dead. And he starts to try to revive the baby fawn. So I'm not going to give you more details than that. It was caught on video because I'm with an animal rescue, and I'm always sharing pictures of my dogs, and it's kind of my hobby. And I posted it on Facebook, and it blew up. I mean, over 20 million views, and he got limos to the house for 2 weeks from all the cable network shows. Wow. And Suffolk County legislator gave him a hero award. The whole Suffolk County legislature made him a hero. It was quite an experience, and he's an awesome dog. So maybe we'll have an episode with Storm one of these days.
I think that episode actually might go viral too. That's incredible. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you sharing that story, and we are big fans of Storm. You know, my kids are huge fans of Storm. I think they still have a picture of them like on their wall in their bedroom. So, but who doesn't love Storm, which is really, really cool. Now I know that an organization that's near and dear to your heart, and we'll close out on this, guys, is Last Chance Animal Rescue. Correct?
Yeah, Last Chance Animal Rescue. Been volunteering with them with my daughter for about 7 years now. We also foster. I'm also the pro bono lawyer, and I run adoption events. Not right now. We're doing actually virtual adoption events. But if you go to lcarescue.org, you can see all the dogs that we have available for adoption. We also could use fosters. We could also use donations of supplies and money. And we're bringing up, I think, about 20 new dogs on this Saturday. So we've brought up so many more additional dogs while this coronavirus is going on, because people want to adopt, they want to foster, and it's been a silver lining, this whole thing. I mean, it's amazing, the outpouring of new foster families that we have, and we are foster based, and it makes saving the lives of these dogs whose lives were in danger possible. And thank God. And I can't say enough about fosters and their dedication and commitment to saving lives, because they're integral in what we do.
Yeah. It's incredible. You know, it's amazing how everyone in the firm is involved with some aspect of the community. I know, Mark, a big thing for you is animal. You're a big animal activist, and you're very, very involved with that organization, Last Chance. But Shawn, also, you're very, very much involved with the community, with kids and music. A lot of people don't know that about you. I know that you're an accomplished musician, but could you tell everyone a little bit about your music school and what you guys do with the music school for the community?
Well, sure. Yeah. It's been 9 years now. We have a store. It's called the Rock Underground, and we focus on rock and roll type music. We put kids together in ensembles, in bands, and we do go out and play in the community. We've done many charity events for all different organizations. We play at a lot of the villages around the community, and we think it's a great alternative for a lot of the kids in the community that aren't really into, they haven't found their thing. They're not into sports. They're not on teams. They kind of feel like they're left out of a lot of activities, and we find we get them into these programs where they're playing music, and they're on a team, because that ensemble, that band that they're playing with, their bandmates are depending upon them to learn the music, to perform the music, to get the cues, and we see that they really do develop, and a lot of them, their parents just come to us, and they just rave about how their child has changed, and they've come out of their shell, and they've really learned a lot of social skills where they had no friends and they were afraid to speak to other kids, and now they're they're laughing and smiling and joking with their peers, and so it's a great experience, and it is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I do love it.
Well, guys, I just want to thank you guys both. I want to thank you both again for joining us. I know how busy both of you are, so I appreciate you guys, your professionalism as attorneys, but your heart also for the community, for the both areas that you guys serve. It's been incredible what you guys do in your professional and your private life, so it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Great
Rob.
to be with you, Rob.
So, guys, and for our audience, thank you so much for tuning in to Ask Your Injury Lawyers. So whether you were watching this on YouTube or Facebook or on various podcast channels, thank you so much for joining us. You can join us for now every single Tuesday and Thursday, where you get to tune in, ask your attorneys, your injury lawyers, any questions you want, and we're going to be dedicating themselves to answering those questions. So thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time. My name is Rob Taormina, and we are tuning out from Ask Your Injury Lawyers. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.